Hey folks, so this is part 2 of the first lecture. For the most part, this little bit is for people who are beginners in philosophy, or maybe you don't remember your philosophy, or you just like to review. If you are a super advanced, awesome philosophy student and you've seen this before, here is the punchline. Philosophy of language generally dwells in the realm of epistemology proper, because all of our knowledge claims are in language. However, it connects to ontology because when we make claims about what we know, we are talking about the real world, that we know something in the real world. So philosophy of language is pretty much an ontological and an epistemological enterprise. And if that was way too quick and a little freaky for you, I'm now going to slow down and talk about the different branches of philosophy and show how philosophy of language is related to all of them. Okay, so for the beginners, philosophy is generally considered to have 3 main branches. There's a branch called ontology and metaphysics. This branch asks the question, what is real? It explores the study of being and the nature of existence. And we're looking for things that are real beyond what people think or believe or feel, right? What is beyond what we can study or know using any of the empirical sciences or using the wisdom of literature, anything like that? What is real beyond the physics, beyond what we do understand knowing the methods that we have? So when we make claims about a god or gods or divine or spiritual forces, right, things that cannot be explored through science, that's a metaphysical set of claims and set of questions. When you ask about what happens after death or if we have a soul, these are classic questions in ontology. Likewise, if you have a view of human nature, so if you think that human beings are fundamentally kind and loving and cooperative, or if you think we are fundamentally greedy or competitive or selfish, or if you think all of these things about us, all of those thoughts are metaphysical claims. They are claims about what it is to be a human being. Currently, there's a lot of discussion about what it is to be fundamentally male or fundamentally female, and is there a difference between being male or female? So that's another set of questions in ontology that also relates to human nature and what it is to be something. What is it really to be a man? What is it really to be a woman? Is the soul real? Is God real? So this is kind of the set of concepts that I want you to have when you're talking about ontology and metaphysics. If you'd like to get a little bit more advanced, the word ontology technically means the study of being. The word metaphysics technically means beyond the physics. I'm going to use these 2 words interchangeably in this class, but do know that if you decide that you're going to go on in ontology and metaphysics, that they're often used differently. So that just as a footnote. Since we were talking about language and reality, I think it's pretty clear that when we are making a claim and then asking whether or not it's true or false, reality, ontology, has a lot to do with our belief about a claim being true or false, a claim or a sentence. Second branch of philosophy, epistemology, is the study of how we know things. How do we know things? What is knowledge, right? Define your terms. If you're a good philosopher, you define your terms before you do anything else. So if epistemology is the study of knowledge, knowledge is justified true belief. So when you have knowledge, what that means is you have a belief in your head. So you have a sentence, maybe ill-formed, maybe well-formed and detailed in your head. You want to know if it is true, so you want to know if it maps onto reality. So that little truth part connects us back to the ontology branch. And you want to know if it's justified. So a true belief by itself would be a lucky guess, right? Ooh, I have a true belief, but I have no reason for believing for it. That's just a lucky guess. So when you're really talking about knowledge, you want it also to have justification. So you want it to have reasons or evidence backing up that belief, showing how it is true. So that's why we generally take knowledge to be justified true belief. It can't just be true belief or a lucky guess. It can't just be a justified belief, because then it might not be true. And if something is justified and true, but if you don't believe it, well, then you just don't have that knowledge. If you're an advanced philosophy student and if you've had Prashanto's class, you know that knowledge is actually a little bit trickier than this, that it's justified true belief plus some condition that handles the Gettier problems. We will probably talk about Gettier problems in this class, but it will be much later. And if you don't know what it is, don't sweat it. We'll talk about it. I'm just trying to give you kind of the good basics of what philosophy is right now. Our basic claim that gives us an example of what knowledge is in philosophy of language is the cat is on the mat. So you can think of that as like this ordinary sentence, the cat is on the mat, right? Subject, verb, object, describing a cat in a location. And how would we decide whether or not this claim, the cat is on the mat, is true? Well, you might do it empirically, so you might go look. That is, you might use your senses, your observational skills and methods in order to back up your claim, the cat is on the mat, right? Or you might use your rational skills. You might use deduction and reasoning and your mental powers in order to justify this claim, the cat is on the mat. So a better, perhaps, example of when we use rationalistic methods of justification, so when we use methods of deduction, reasoning, and mental workout, generally speaking, in order to corroborate or make rational, give foundation to a belief, a better example might be one infinity plus another infinity still equals infinity. So this is something that you don't go out and directly experience, so you're not using empirical methods. What you are doing is thinking about the notion of infinity, thinking about another infinity, and recognizing that if you add them together, it's still going to go on forever. So you don't have to go out and see and touch and feel it. You don't need to use senses and observational methods in order to know that it's true. Empiricism and rationalism are the two primary methods in epistemology, and they are important because we are going to use them in order to figure out what meaning is, or try to figure out what meaning is. But also we need to recognize that whenever we make a claim and back it up empirically or back it up rationally, we are making that claim in language. So ultimately, we are going to hang out in philosophy of language, in ontology and epistemology, we tend to be here. That doesn't mean, though, that the third branch of philosophy is completely irrelevant. In fact, I think it's incredibly relevant. It's just not where philosophy of language is usually classified. So axiology is the branch that asks, what is valuable, what is important? So if you get questions about what is the meaning of life, or what is my purpose, or should I care more about being personally fulfilled, or should I care more about money, things like that, all of these questions fall under axiology. The three main branches of axiology are: one, social and political philosophy. So when we ask, what is good for society? Do we want to live in a democracy or a dictatorship? Do we think it's better to distribute the wealth capitalistically or socialistically or communistically, right? Any of these questions about economics and the distribution of wealth, how we can best live together, what good forms of government are for human flourishing, that's a form of axiology called social and political philosophy. You can see, of course, that social and political claims are also made in language, so philosophy of language is relevant here as well. Quickly, the other two branches of axiology are ethics and aesthetics. Aesthetics asks about what is beautiful and ugly, what makes your heart sing, what do you want to go see again, what moves you musically, what is your favorite work of art, things like that, and why are these works of art simply beautiful because of culture, or is there something intrinsic about them? How do they connect to human emotions, things like that. Ethics is probably the branch of axiology that you're most familiar with, because every day we make claims about what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. So notice again, claims about good, bad, right, and wrong. These claims are claims that are made in language, and one of the things that we're going to be concerned about is how do we use language well? So what is good use of language and bad use of language? So ethics does apply to philosophy of language as well. That was your quick and dirty introduction to philosophy in general. If you are not used to philosophy, this is a very important slide for you and a very important lecture. You have to know these terms to survive in this class. So you've got to know ontology, metaphysics, epistemology, knowledge, justified true belief, empiricism, rationalism, and have some sense of what axiology is. Okay, that concludes part 2. I'm going to quickly scroll through and on to part 3.